This is just a quick explanation of some troubleshooting you can do when you have issues with the audio. So whichever source you're working with, in this case it's the number 2, the timekeeper's box over there using Bluetooth. So that's this one here, number 2. So what I did just to isolate all other variables is you can see I've pressed mute on all other channels. I've turned everything else all the way down, so no other inputs, like none of these can be providing any static, any other interference. And then that way you're working with just one input. So this row here, all these dials, this is your input for the timekeepers. If you can get clear sound on, say, something like the plug here, but you can't get it somewhere else, then that means your issue has nothing to do with anything in here, because this is all the amplifiers for the speakers, and it means your issue is either with the adjustment of these knobs for the particular channel that you're working with, that particular input, or it means that you have an issue with your actual wire between here and wherever the input is, in this case the Bluetooth and the timekeeper's box. So sometimes it can be the cabling, but often it's just that somebody reached their fingers in and touched one of these. So in this particular case, the spots that I made a couple adjustments to, I adjusted this a little bit, and this a little bit, and which was the other one? I think 2 of the EQ settings, just a tiny bit of adjustment on those. And so one way you can gauge whether somebody has maybe messed with this is if you look at all the other inputs. What are all the other inputs doing? If all the other inputs are pretty similar, and then you see one that's like totally different from all the other ones, well, that's a good indication that somebody maybe touched it and moved it to somewhere they shouldn't have. So if you look at all these on the EQ, you see a little bit of variation, but not drastic variation. So if you saw something that was drastic, like this being all the way maximum or all the way minimum, that would give you a pretty good indication that somebody's messed with it. So if you need to, you can make small adjustments to any of these in order to get rid of static and get the signal to sound clear again. Something you also always want to look at is, like, when you look at these lights here, you can see what you're getting for inputs on left and right channel. That's going to bounce around back and forth depending on what the song's playing. Some songs play, they alternate beats between left and right channels. And then another thing to look at is this here. If you ever see this lighting up on here or here, any of these showing clipping, if it's clipping, that means that it's pushing, like too much signal is getting pushed through the cable. Well, that's not the right way to describe it. It's not that it's getting too much signal pushed through the cable. It's trying to push, like a sine wave for sound goes like this. If it's getting pushed to the point that it can't do its normal sine wave, and it's getting the top or the bottom of that sine wave clipped off, then you're going to get sound distortion from that clipping. So it's important. You don't ever want to see these red lights showing clipping on anything. So that's a sort of a quick overview of how to troubleshoot some of this stuff. Hope it helps.